විම් දියර මිලිලීටර් 100 ස්මාර්ට් පැක් එක රුපියල් 85ට දැන් වෙළඳ පොලේ.
හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Tuesday the 7th of March 2023. Dissent. Tensions rise today as police fire tear gas and water cannons as students of the Inter-University Students' Federation carry on with protest march despite court order. Your turn. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that China provided financial assurances yesterday and that a letter of intent was sent to the IMF. Expects IMF approval by the end of this month. Hope. Assurances from major bilateral creditors paves way for IMF to consider staff-level agreement for EFF facility to Sri Lanka, says Krishna Srinivasan, director of the IMF's Asia and Pacific Department. Potential. Election Commission says that the 25th of April would be more suitable for the local government election to be held.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරම.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Andrew Bernard. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. In your top story for tonight, tensions were high today as the Inter-University Students' Federation took to the streets, staging a demonstration demanding for the local government election to be held and for the Prevention of Terrorism Act to be repealed despite a court order that was brought against the protest. Given this turn of events, the police had to fire tear gas and water cannons to disperse the resilient group. The Inter-University Students' Federation today staged a massive demonstration in Colombo based on several demands including the holding of local government elections and the repealing of the Prevention of Terrorism Act. However, early today, the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court issued an order against the protest march, barring IUSF convener Vasantha Mudalige and other protesters from marching towards and entering Goldface Green, Presidential Secretariat, the President's House, the Finance Ministry premises and other nearby establishments through several roads in Colombo. The court order further prohibits them from inconveniencing the pedestrians or vehicular traffic and causing damages to public property. In such a backdrop, the Inter-University Students' Federation and several other organizations jointly commenced a protest march near the Lipton roundabout at around 3 p.m. However, the police had completely blocked the road leading to the Ibanwela junction. The protesters then changed their route and started marching towards the Nelumpokuna junction. However, the police was met with a strong opposition from the protesters when a water cannon truck had obstructed the road near the Kurunduvatta police station. When the protesters resumed their march towards the University of Colombo. However, the protesters managed to bypass the police and move forward. As the protesters tried to pass the University of Colombo and move forward, the police fired water cannons and tear gas to disperse the group. However, the undeterring protesters continued to proceed, during which the group was then fired with a second round of tear gas when they entered the Faculty of Arts of the University of Colombo, where a heated situation arose between the riot police and the protesters. The protesters had resolved to pelt stones towards the police. During this, a cameraman of AdaDerana sustained injuries from the stones that had been directed towards the police. As such, steps were taken to immediately admit him to the Colombo National Hospital. Following this, the protesters then gathered near the University of Colombo and held a rally. Now, President Ranil said today that the government has completed all obligations required by the International Monetary Fund after the central bank, governor and the head of state signed a letter of intent with respect to a letter of financial assurance provided by the Exim Bank of China. Given this, the head of state says that he expects the IMF to fulfill its duties by the end of this month. President Wickremesinghe further emphasized that the country needs the IMF program currently in order to meet the debt obligations of 6 to 7 billion rupees by 2029, and that the government will take stern action against anyone who seeks to hinder the progress of this program through any means of protests. We received the letter of financial assurance from the Exim Bank of China last night. Last night, the governor of the central bank and I signed the letter of intent and forwarded it to the IMF. Now that our duties are done, I hope that before the end of this month, by the 4th week, the IMF will do its duty. After that, we will get the first round of funds from the World Bank and the ADB. We currently don't pay our bilateral debt, but we do pay our multilateral debt. If the existing agreement with the IMF is breached, foreign economic activities will be largely hindered, and we would have to pay loans taken from the foreign countries and private banks. An annual amount of approximately 6 to 7 billion rupees of foreign loans are due to be paid until 2029, and we do not have the foreign exchange to pay this debt. We need the IMF to continue with agreed debt sustainability discussion with the foreign creditors. We have worked hard in the past 7 to 8 months to bring about positive developments. Economic reforms are crucial to move forward. Professionals have highlighted that the tax burden is high. However, this situation should be maintained for a short period of time. If this program is disrupted, the country will be pushed to a far more dangerous place than the state it was in during February to March of 2022. All that time, many people thought that salaries would be lost, pensions would be lost, jobs would be lost, industries would be closed, schools would be closed, and so on. We accept the people's right to freedom of speech, but that right should be exercised peacefully. However, if this progress is being hindered through protests, I would like to say that this government will act strongly against it. If this country had collapsed on the 9th of July, this situation would not exist today. We would like to express our gratitude to the armed forces and the police who took steps to uphold peace in the country. As a result of their efforts, we have fuel and electricity, and before long, we will also have dollars. As such, we won't allow these forces to disrupt this program. I invite the opposition to join us, and after this, we can decide on holding the presidential election and the general election. Until then, I'm asking you if you are ready or not. You can accept this or reject it, but it is the country that would make this decision. Since these are coming into the country, we can consider the income level of the country in mid-July, and only after that can we make decisions. Once the approval for the IMF agreement has been received, I will table the agreement in Parliament and request the House to accept it. You can accept this decision or provide us with an alternative. We were able to complete all prior actions required within 8 months. I suggest that we take advantage of it and move forward. Now, in the meantime, the International Monetary Fund said that Sri Lanka secured financing assurances from all major bilateral creditors, paving the way for the IMF board to consider approval for the long-awaited $2.9 billion loan of 4-year bailout agreed last year. According to Reuters, the IMF board will meet on the 20th of March to review a preliminary staff-level agreement first signed in September. Approval is expected since the board generally will not add items to its agenda unless its members are ready to act. Further, the IMF has also stated that approval of Sri Lanka's bailout by the IMF board would also catalyze financing from other creditors, including the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. They also said that they will support the authorities' program of ambitious reforms, which Sri Lanka has already embarked on. Now, in light of these claims by State Minister Defence Pramita Bandara Tennakun that the army will be downsized by a third of the force of 135,000, former Army Commander General Derana English states that the reduction will have to take place from the volunteer force. General Ratnayaka states that the downsized army deployed in the country's stability will ensure that it will not be of best interest of the nation. According to official sources, the objectives of the fund-supported program are to restore macroeconomic stability and its sustainability while safeguarding financial stability, protecting the vulnerable and stepping up structural reforms to address corruption vulnerabilities and unlock Sri Lanka's growth potential. A key aspect of those objectives is to reduce Sri Lanka's purportedly bloated government sector. Sri Lanka reduced the retirement age of state employees twice last year from 65 to 60, among many other measures to reduce state sector expenditure in a reform to cut down government spending.
Some governments tend to support the idea of having large government sector, and also there are so many other government-centered activities that are being carried out by the government sector. But the other side of this issue is much of these services have been below optimal, and also from an economic point of view, we are not in the best point of the economic spectrum. There's a need to have a more efficient public sector targeted that will support the economic growth. The issue is that if you don't do that, the economic growth had to support a large overhead, which will be counterproductive in creating a surplus in the economic growth process. In particular, having a government sector large is not very beneficial. It has to be efficient, it has to be focused, and it has to be targeted. The government sector has to be more professional, more results-oriented, more accountable, more transparent. So all these aspects have to come in.
Particularly pertaining to Sri Lanka's armed forces, President Wickremesinghe indicated his desire to downsize the strength of the military on the 14th of November last year when he presented the budget 2023. The president proposed to allow armed forces personnel other than special categories to retire after 18 years of service, while also stating that measures will be taken to provide them with necessary training and enabling them to engage in productive economic activities. The president's remarks were followed by a statement from the State Minister of Defence Pramita Bandara Tennakun after the army will be downsized by a third to 135,000 personnel by next year and to 100,000 by 2030. The minister went on to say that the aim of the move was to create a technically and tactically sound and well-balanced defence force by 2030. According to World Bank data, Sri Lanka's armed forces personnel peaked at 317,000 between 2017 and 2019, higher even than during the civil war which ended in 2009. Speaking to AdaDerana on the implications of downsizing the military, former commander of the army General Derana English stated that the military needs to be right-sized following proper analysis and consultation.
All of a sudden, we are deciding to reduce the government military. That is an issue. After the completion of the war in 2009, we did the proper analysis and started stabilizing the army. Here we had how to reduce the numbers, the excess numbers available. During that time, the government decided, strategic decision was taken to maintain an army of about 200,000. So this includes the volunteer force. Now people are thinking of reducing the armed forces. Actually, the volunteer force, when you take, that is around 60,000 in numbers. The plan initially was to reduce the numbers from the volunteer force, giving them right training and right opportunities in the civil street and other departments in the government. So without activating this, the government has recruited people into the government other sectors without taking this into consideration. As a result, we got to maintain the volunteer force in full strength. Now it has become an issue If the government is thinking of right-sizing the army or the reducing the numbers, it is the volunteer element can be reduced if proper alternative arrangements being made for those people to be employed. Without properly analyzing these things, reducing the armed force at this moment will not be a very good thing until such time we achieve certain amount of stability in the country, politically, socially, economically. Maintaining a sizable force is a requirement.
Now, the Election Commission has recommended the 25th of April as the most suitable date for the local government elections that were originally scheduled to be held on the 9th of March. The Commission said that the district secretaries who serve as returning officers have been instructed to announce the 25th of April as the new election date.
The Election Commission held a meeting this morning with the opposition parties representing the Parliament to discuss on the holding of the local government elections. The meeting was participated by parliamentarians of the Samik Jana Balawegaya, National People's Power, Freedom People's Alliance, Tamil National Alliance and other parties representing the opposition. During the meeting, the opposition members requested the Commission to provide the earliest possible date for the election. Following the meeting with the opposition parliamentarians, the Election Commission held a meeting with state officials including the head of the Department of Government Printing and a senior DIG who represented the police headquarters. The Secretary to the Treasury, Mahinda Siriwardana, however, did not attend this meeting. During the meeting, the head of the government press stated that they needed 60 police officers for security during the process of printing ballot papers. In response, the senior DIG has requested the head of the Department of Government Printing to submit a written request of the need to the Inspector General of the Police. Meanwhile, issuing a statement today, the Election Commission has deemed April 25th as the most suitable date to hold the 2023 local government polls. The Commission said that the district secretaries who serve as returning officers have been instructed to announce April 25th as the new date of the election.
Now, a decision regarding the composition of the appeals court bench, which will pass judgment on the writ petition filed by former President Maithripala Sirisena, will be made on the 14th of March. The appeals court bench, comprising Court Appeal President Justice Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne and Justice A. Marikar, issued the relevant order early this morning. Former President Maithripala Sirisena filed the petition with the appeals court contesting the personal complaint filed against him over the 2019 Easter Sunday attack. Reverend Father Cyril Gamini and a victim of the Easter Sunday at the St. Anthony's Church in Kochikade filed a personal petition against the former president, claiming that then-president failed to prevent the 2019 Easter attack despite having received prior intelligence reports. And we'll be back with more news right after this short commercial break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, former Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel President's Council Sarath Vijayasinghe says that the education sector is a cradle of development and prosperity of Sri Lanka. He made these comments addressing the convocation ceremony of the Surado campus of business management in Colombo. Meanwhile, the Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa highlighted the importance of an academic approach for caregiving.
The convocation ceremony of the Surado campus of business management for the academic year 2022 was recently held under the patronage of Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa.
Looking after the needy had become a big requirement and big challenge for everybody. So therefore there must be some academic approach for a thing like that. So far we have not done it. So far we have not even given that to the society. Now you are stepping into a new era, new sphere of knowledge and very important sector of our society, which had been in need for the last so many years. And also in the future it will be much more improved, I suppose. So I must tell you the caregiving is something which is important.
වැඩිහිටියන්ට සැලකීම, රෝගීන් රැක බලා ගැනීම මේවා ඉතාමත් වැදගත් කාරණාවක් අපේ සංස්කෘතියට අනුව. එවැනි දෙයක් සඳහා උපාධියක් ප්‍රදානය කරන මට්ටමට ඇති කිරීම මම හිතනවා අපි බෙහෙවින්ම අගය කළ යුතු කාරණාවක්.
The education and training sector in Sri Lanka, which is the cradle of development and prosperity of a nation. Employment, training and education in Sri Lanka is the most second to any other in South Asia, which is booming with a vision and aim If you go anywhere in the world, Sri Lanka is highly respected. Sri Lanka, a lot of skilled people are there, which they may not recognize in this country, but they may be recognized in other countries. That is a pathetic situation we are facing. This is the best country in the world. If you take geopolitics, why China? Why USA? Why India? They are so worried about Sri Lanka activities. Not only external, now they are pushing internal activities. Who is giving advice to conduct election and all? Not Sri Lanka Election Commission, but embassies. I don't know yet what's happening. Why they are really interested. We will understand this very soon. Every resources we have. We are sitting in a resource world.
Now, the all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange has increased by nearly 200 points during today's trading. Accordingly, the all-share price index increased by 198.2 points to close at 9,842.94 during the day. This is the highest close of the index for the year so far, after starting 2023 on 8,489.66 points. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 showed an increase of 1.9%, after it gained 30.96 points to increase to 2,869.14 points at the close of trading. Today's total turnover was recorded at 3.43 billion rupees. In the meantime, the capital goods sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, whilst the sector gained 2.25%. The banking sector, in the meantime, was the second highest contributor to the market turnover, as the sector index rather increased by 5.78%. Meanwhile, foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Now, oil held near the highest close in 5 weeks today ahead of testimony from the Federal President, Chair Jerome Powell, that will provide clues on the path forward for monetary tightening. Brent crude futures fell 0.28% to settle at $85.96 a barrel by 10:43 GMT. US West Texas Intermediate crude was also down by 0.2% and settled at $80.37 after advancing for 5 sessions. The American Petroleum Institute weekly report is due at 21:30 GMT today, with the Energy Information Administration following at 15:30 GMT tomorrow. The market will also look at direction from the US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's testimony before the Senate Banking Committee at 1500 GMT later today. The focus will be on whether he remains confident that the Fed is on the right path to keep inflation on a steady decline towards its 2% target. Bearish sentiment surrounded a contraction in China's exports and import in January and February, including crude imports. The decline came despite a lifting of COVID-19 restrictions, pointing to weakness in foreign demand. And that's all the news we have for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for the very latest news at the very same time. Have a pleasant evening and good night.